Greetings from Bangkok, Thailand, and welcome to 30 Minutes Promoting Unity and Diversity with Wani Angerer in Moving Cultures. We are so happy to have with us today a very special guest. She is a friend from Italy, and her name is Lia Sciortino. She is based in Thailand at the moment, but she is a reference of humanity and a global citizen as well, focusing on East Asian situations, people, and political affairs. And of course, human development, what we say understanding, because it's not only about doing changing, it's about understanding what is going on in order to become more compassionate about life. So let's welcome Lia, who is our guest number 249 of this series. We are so excited that we're really getting closer to the 250. So Lia, welcome. How are you today?
I am fine, and thank you very much for inviting me to be part of this 250 special guests and counting. Yeah.
Lia, we are thrilled, we are excited, we are happy because you are with us today and you have the time to share with us your life, your journey, what you have been doing and what you are preparing for the future. So let's start telling us who is Lia Sciortino.
Well, this is a very difficult question, and indeed not easy to know where to start, but I will try. For sure, I am a mix of all kinds of things. My roots are in Sicily. Sicily is the southern part of Italy with a special history of mixed cultures from Arab, Normans, and many other influence. And I think this is reflected in my family as well as myself. I have always been quite inclusive and interested in other culture. And I have lived also in other places in Europe. I study in Holland. I study anthropology, again, in interest in other cultures. And then my professional career has been mostly in Southeast Asia. I have started to work in the 90s in Indonesia with the Ford Foundation, working on issue of gender and sexual and reproductive health, and then moved to the Philippines. And then with the Rockefeller Foundation, I was regional director here in Bangkok. Before moving back again to Indonesia, and then with USAID at the time, and then I was the regional director for IDRC, a Canadian grant-making organization. So my work has always been on development. It's always been related to key issues in this region, Southeast Asia, which I have come to love, not only because of work, but also because of my husband, my late husband, Sumaryono, who was an Indonesian citizen, and we have traveled together all over this region and lived also in Holland together until he died in Singapore 9 years ago. And then, of course, was a big shock. And although in a sense we were prepared because it was cancer, and we were told that the prospect was far from good, but still it takes you by surprise. And after 25 years of marriage, of course, you have to reinvent yourself as a single person, although with family and friends, luckily a lot of friends and family that support. And as part of this recreation was the starting of SEA Junction. And SEA Junction is a public venue in Bangkok, based at the Bangkok Arts and Culture Center, which, as you know, because you are one of our supporters, has many events related to Southeast Asia. So the passion for Southeast Asia remains, but in a different form, because I am no longer involved really in grant making or philanthropy or direct development aid. But of course, I remain concerned about all the issue, and the basic idea is to bring it to a general public. This is something that I noticed during my work, that too often we work in isolation from the public. And I think we need to share our concern more widely and to translate research and other information that we may have in such a way that people find it of interest and are eager to learn about. And this is what SEA-Junction is aiming to do. It's a junction for people with different backgrounds. So as you see, my life has been quite rich, but at the same time, indeed, also I have to learn from personal experience and pain, and the issue of rebuilding and finding a community that keep you going, I think is quite central to my life. And I am lucky to have such extended community, very mixed community of people with different background. Myself and my husband were extremely different in terms of socioeconomic background, in terms of interest. He was a martial arts expert. So again, quite different from my own background as a lazy kind of person. He was Muslim, I was Catholic, both of us quite secular, though, in our approach. So everything nationality, as I say, were different. So I think from my life and then also in the work I do, there is always this great interest for others and the belief that is enrich us rather than some people see it as a threat to our society.
Lia, as you know, Moving Cultures is promoting unity and diversity. And I'm going to go back to the beginning of your presentation when you were talking about your family being from Sicily. And then this is an element that I feel has become very important in the way you do things, because it's a community that is expert on telling stories. And you know, and how important is a civil society and the power of the community. Can you tell us a little bit about your upbringing? Because something happened on your childhood that make you be the person you are today.
Well, I am just been quite lucky to have, I mean, actually diverse is the diversity of Sicily, which is embodied in the people of Sicily. They both were Sicilian, they were born in Palermo by generation. So in that sense, but my father was very blonde and tall, and my mother was dark and shorter, which showed the influence of gene, Arab gene and Norman gene. And many people, though many people think of Sicily of people with dark hair and dark eyes, like me, actually there are many blonde people because of this past influence. So already I think in terms of gene, but of course gene alone is not enough in terms of unity in diversity. I think both of them, they were very broad-minded, and the way we were raised was to appreciate, first of all, to read. We start to read all in the family very early on, around 3-4 years already. We start to be familiar with books. We were shown also about art and beauty. We would go to places to see this art exhibition and other thing very early on, not always with pleasure, you know, as children, you don't want always to follow, but I mean, when we eat at lunchtime, we had all kind of conversation. My father was a lawyer, a labor lawyer. My mother was director of a social work. school, and then at the time there was no sociologist, but basically was a sociologist, and both of them so had a sincere concern for social issue. Both of them were much more believers than what I may define myself today as Catholic, but engaged Catholic. So was always about emancipation theory, liberation theology, so always very close with community of migrants and other people. So the social concern was also part of the bringing. I mean, I must confess that I was a rebel when I was young, so I try to differentiate myself from my family when I was young, and I went to travel, but later on, I think I came to appreciate the value that also gender values. I think both my brothers, we are five, and all of us, I think we have been raised quite in egalitarian way, which for Sicily particular as the backward part of Italy was not necessarily something normal at those time. But as I say, I was not appreciating all this when I was young, and I really tried to live, and I think I gave a lot of pain to my to my parents, who luckily never refused me. And so later on, I think I came to appreciate a lot of my upbringing. Yes, and
Lia,
indeed.
it's exciting, you know, to see how sometimes your path is being designed by a greater force. And then sometimes we try to go around, you know, and because you already were given the tools and the skills by your upbringing to be who you are now. And I'm telling you that I get very surprised because it's very close to mine. We are six, but on the time we were raised by my parents, we were five and we were very close. And we were also created with this triangle line that is education, spirituality, and then the bottom line you have social service, community service, and the only thing you can get in the middle is art. Because, and this is exactly the same way you were raised, and like you say, probably when you were small, we decide to look for our own tribe, and you probably needed to move to Asia and to find the other part of you in this part of the world, you know. And but at the end of the day, everything they gave you make things easier to you subconsciously. Yeah. And
Well, the part on Asia came later, but I mean, when I was very young, yes, I went to travel. I mean, like in the post-hippies time, you
time.
know, you do all this India, Morocco, and all, and all, and then I ended up in Holland, and then I start to study.
Yeah,
And I
but you
started
see, but when you mention India and the post-hip, it comes from Asia. You know, it's when
yeah,
everything
well,
is, yeah, it started all this flare of yoga and the free spirit and thinking. So let's talk about that power of the civil society that you now embrace.
yeah, I mean, I always believed also when I was working for foundations and other donors, I think I always, and that, of course, I start to work in the 90s and up to 2015, let's say this is the career time, which initially was a time in which there was the realization of the importance of civil society among the international development world. So many donors kind of start to open up because mostly development aid is bilateral, but they start to see also the very importance of civil society to address issues that government may neglect or may not be willing to address. And I think it's very important to have always this kind of critical watch dog position with regards to policies that are being taken. And civil society is often the first one to take initiative for issues that may appear sensitive or has to do with vulnerable groups that are not in the center of the attention. An example in the 90s, the work we did with the Ford Foundation at the time related to HIV/AIDS in Indonesia at a time when the Indonesian government did not wanted to recognize that HIV/AIDS was already in Indonesia, and if it recognized, it was very discriminatory towards groups that now are called LGBTs and other groups, as well as sex workers. So we work a lot with civil society groups, which often were led by professionals. So when we talk about civil society, there is all kind of different groups, and but they were willing to stake their head out, so to say, and to take position with regard to HIV/AIDS and other issues. So this is just one of the example, which later on some people may have forgotten, because after, of course, the drugs are found, then again, the discourse is much more about medical system, etc. But we have to remember at the beginning of the HIV epidemics, we had only a civil society group really fighting for the rights of people with HIV/AIDS, as well as for prevention activities, as well as the approach was mainly a social approach to health. And I have seen this happen over and over again. Again, in the COVID, I am writing now about social protection in the COVID era, and the groups that were neglected, like migrants, refugees, sex workers, because they are not recognized as workers, so they didn't get much of assistance. The one who care are all civil society group or individual or concerned individuals. So I think it's extremely important not to forget this. And although government, especially authoritarian government, are scared of civil society because they often brings alternative view, I think those alternative view are extremely important for our society.
Lia, now we're talking about the power of the people, the importance of the international cooperation, and also the power of art as a transformative tool to raise awareness and also allow us to connect. I think social media is playing an important role in this era, you know, allowing us to see closely what's going on. You were mentioning situations of the 90s that were not socially and internationally delivered, and not many people knew. For example, in Latin America, as we don't have any political and economical relations with Asia, we don't see any kind of news related to that or related to Africa. The only relations we are connected to are the ones between America and some European countries. And now it's easy to get the whole world engaged in these causes and really understand the power of people globally to engage and support those ones in need. I'm going to bring to the screen images of the latest exhibition that you are sharing. And okay, we're going to start with the photo of our conversation, and you can tell us a little bit about this exhibition, the Stand for Democracy in Myanmar.
So Asia Junction, as I mentioned before, this public venue at the Bangkok Arts and Culture Center, we try to translate issue in a way that the public is interested in knowing more. And although Myanmar is quite close to Thailand, and what is happening in Myanmar has to do with Thailand in many ways because of the refugee. Just mention the people that are crossing the border because of the coup that has happened the last February. Not many may think about that. The whole point of this exhibition is to show the solidarity for the people within Myanmar that are still fighting for the return of democracy. And what you say is true. The global allow us, this is an Argentinian painter who paints photographs of Myanmar photographers. So we see already there the interconnection between Latin America and Asia. It's an Argentinian who lost the brother during the Pinochet regime. So of course, he feels very much with other cases of human rights abuses all over the world. So you see that connection that goes beyond boundaries, but at the same time, we also know power relation. And we see that Myanmar is now forgotten in the global community as everyone is focusing on Ukraine. And Ukraine, of course, we know is a very serious issue. It deserves the global attention, but so are many other places in the world, including Myanmar. And for the people of Myanmar, it's quite disappointing that the international community is forgetting about them. So we want to show solidarity with them. This is the title of the exhibition, Stand for Democracy in Myanmar, and at the same time, get public in Thailand and beyond, because of course we also promote through social media and the image are circulating in the social media. So we try also to reach people beyond Bangkok, but our target, of course, are people in Bangkok, whether they are from the region. This is the opening. You can see there are people with very varied background, from students, Myanmar students who are here to experts, development experts, and other concerned people that want to know more. This is about the civil disobedience movement, these particular pictures which started the reaction to the coup. So health professional and nursing were among the first to clearly indicate that we're not going to accept another military regime, because Myanmar, as you know, has had many military regimes. They were not going to accept, and they stopped working. And of course, it's a very significant decision. Here we see students or young people protesting, especially they have seen their future destroyed. I mean, we have met many who come around Sea Junction again to meet other people from Myanmar, and because they also want to show support to us. I must say I have been very touched by the migrant community in Thailand, as well as these new refugees that are willing to give their time. We have had musicians and we have had also people who have donated to us from Myanmar, migrant people who have a relatively less income. They have donated T-shirts and with Return to Democracy and other, just to allow Sea Junction to continue their activities. And this is very moving, the fact that we know that people see the value of what we do. And here you can see art, right? I mean, art communicates. I mean, this photograph were already very famous because they are about significant elements of the Myanmar fight at the beginning. But the color, so he buy the right of the photography and then he paint on top and write on top. And this adds an extra layer of power of communication. I mean, if you see the photograph and you see like now, like painted like this, there is an extra element, and this is the power of art. And I have always believed in that. As donor at the time, I founded quite a lot of activities related to use the arts, not only as education, because this is normally what some NGO may try, is educate. It's not only educate, I mean, it's more trigger the curiosity and the sentiments and the feeling that make you connected. And this is why I believe rather than NGO doing art, is often more powerful to collaborate between artists and NGO or other or university or other party, try to foster those community, because of course artists are much more knowledgeable about how to do art. So, and this is always here we see musicians from Myanmar and other part who have been very supportive to us. Well, you know them very well. You have introduced them to us. They're also part of your network. And since then, they have always been with us in every event that is related to Myanmar, and voluntarily so. So again, I really appreciate. So the effort is to create communities and networks. We cannot do everything by ourselves, right? Some people have the art capacity, some people have more the information, the evidence. We do panel discussion. We want to be evidence based in this world of fake news. I think it's very important to go back to data and scientific information, but combined with other also very important aspect of our life, which includes art and feelings.
I have to congratulate you. I have to thank you. You know, I have the opportunity to learn a lot about Southeast Asia thanks to SEA, because as I mentioned it to you, we're connected to other parts of the world in different ways. And you're very engaged, passionate, and your level of aesthetics is very high. And is an element that actually, like you mentioned before, attracts people. Sometimes people is afraid to know about pain because they see it with a not very friendly face. And I think you managed to put love, aesthetics, and beauty to content that is very dramatic and very difficult to swallow. We have 3 minutes to finish this 30-minute conversation. Lia, please give us a closure message to this conversation.
Well, first I want to thank the group we work with. So I want to stress it's not just me. Yes, I am the founder, but I have many who help me, Kun Bom, Kun Ke, etc. in our group. So it's really a collective effort. My final message is, of course, in this world in which it's very easy to get on the pessimist side. Sometimes I ask myself why I am doing this, you know, is things that we have worked in the past 20 years now are back and sometimes look worse than what they were 20 or 30 years ago. So sometimes it's very difficult to keep the strength to continue to be engaged in this world. But I think we have to do it. We have no choice. We have to do it because otherwise we would be the first to feel unsatisfied and unhappy. So we do for ourselves, but we hope it contributes a little bit to keep this important issue on the table. So thank you for doing this. I know you are also very active and very much on the same line of thinking, and it is important that we know that we are not on our own. So thank you for inviting me to be here.
Lia, I send you a big embrace from Bangkok. We're still in the same city, and we unfortunately have the opportunity to see each other and embrace physically. And as you say, I also congratulate your team and all the artists you are connecting with. And definitely, I hope more people will get close to SEA and collaborate and support you with the fundraising you keep running to conclude the building of the center that is in expansion at the moment. So we ask everybody who is interested to get in contact with SEA. You can find it in Facebook and Instagram. We can also send you the personal links of the institutions, and you can do your donations, yeah, and help us continue with this cause of promoting unity and diversity and making the world a better place for everybody. Like Lia say, if you don't like something, change it. And this is the reason we are working the way we do, because if we want a better place, we need to contribute to have a better place. Leah, musical kisses, and
Yes.
see you soon, okay? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.